A juror's role is to be a fact-finder. They are to consider the evidence and testimony presented to them and determine what the true facts are. Under the Sixth Amendment, the defendant is guaranteed the right to a trial by an impartial jury. During our court observation, we witnessed a jury member nodding off during closing arguments of a double murder trial, and several of them not paying attention to the important facts of the case.
If you were charged with murder, how would you feel if members of the jury were falling asleep?
If I was on trial, I would want everybody paying attention to what was going on.
I would feel really bad, like I knew I was going to go to jail or prison.
I'd nudge my attorney right away and I'd say, what's going on over here? I don't have the jury's attention.
The juries, that's tough because they're not really being compensated. I don't know what kind of trial it is, but they're not being compensated really. They get called up. So that's...
This would be a murder trial, your life
actually,
at
yeah, that's
stake.
true. That's a pretty big trial.
Would you be angry? Would you be...
I would be angry, yeah. If the jury was just not really paying attention, I would be really angry, actually.
Oh, I'd obviously feel that my trial was being affected, that in fact I wasn't getting necessarily a fair trial. I mean, the least you should have out of 12 people deciding is have them be awake to hear all the evidence. Unless, of course, I was really, really guilty, in which case I might want them to sleep so they don't hear all the terrible things I did.
That's true.
So I would want them to be awake. I mean, it's hard to get 12 people to make a good decision if they're not paying attention and they're not listening to the evidence.
Judges are responsible for seeing that the proceedings in the courtroom are conducted in a way that upholds the dignity of the proceedings and fairness in the eyes of the public. If the judge fails to maintain control of the proceedings and to ensure the fairness of the trial, the trustworthiness and legitimacy of the court may be compromised. During closing arguments of the Armstrong case, we witnessed the judge leaving the courtroom, answering his cell phone, and checking his computer frequently.
During the same trial, how would you feel if the judge was answering his cell phone, texting, or using the internet?
I feel horrible. I feel like he didn't care at all.
About your life?
Yeah.
That would bother me as well, quite a bit, actually.
As if they weren't paying attention to your
Yes,
life.
how could they be? Yes.
If I saw the judge texting and doing other things like that, that would be really surprising to me. He's a professional, he's paid to do that job.
I've had that experience when I was practicing as well, both either as a defense attorney or as a prosecutor. Sometimes judges are able to multitask. Not only students can multitask, contrary to popular belief. And so sometimes what they're doing, they may be researching. I mean, they can research an issue with Lexis online. Sometimes I had one judge who used to type out snatches of testimony on his computer so he'd have his own little file. And sometimes they're just screwing around and they're just, playing solitaire, who knows what. And there's not a whole lot that a lawyer can do about that. You can't demand the judge do something. It's the judge's courtroom and you're sort of there. It's like playing Mother May I in a way. The judge is the mother in some ways. And so you can't do anything unless the judge says it's okay to do. You can't criticize the judge normally. So how do you feel about it? You would kind of rather have the judge pay attention to you?
If all this was taking place during your trial, what would you want to be done to the jury or judge?
What would I do about it? I'd probably tell my lawyer, hey, I don't think this is fair. You need to do something for me. Because as plaintiff, you really can't stand up in court and say, but your lawyer could object.
I would want them fined and get a new jury.
I would want proceedings to stop, and I would want at least the jury to be made aware of the situation and reminded of the life and death situation. This could be a trial for murder where you're dead. You could get the death penalty. So I would remind them to take breaks more often and do what they needed to stay awake during something that important.
Something to make them take what they're doing more seriously, obviously. I don't know what you would do about the jurors, but the judge is definitely something that need to be done there. definitely. I mean, he's the ultimate, deciding factor. So, but I don't know what you would do for the jury members. That's a tough one. I don't know. Maybe pay him.
What you could do is you go up to the sidebar to the judge or at recess, and you say to the judge, Your Honor, I see juror number 6 is snoozing. I'm really concerned about that. I don't think he can be a fair and impartial juror if he's not listening. Could you admonish him? That's the term you use. In other words, say to juror number 6, hey, you, wake up. Do you need coffee? You want my bailiff to slap you upside your head? What would you like, sir? Ma'am? So you could do that. And the judge will could admonish. Some of the other things that I used to do is there were trials where I would stand closer to the rail where the jury sits, inside the jury box, and speak louder and look at them so that they knew that I was giving them the stink eye, and so that they would pay attention.
Walking into the courtroom, we couldn't have guessed the injustice our group would have witnessed. When you think of a double murder trial, you think of a packed courtroom, many motions, and attorneys defending and prosecuting with so much passion. What we experienced was the complete opposite. The courtroom was only half full, with only the defendant's friends and family. A depleted atmosphere with no emotions and very dull, uninterested attorneys. The jury, the fact-finders, the group of people who would decide the fate of this young man, were completely disrespecting their duties. On several occasions, they were seen nodding off and ignoring the proceedings. Even the judge, the person who resides over the courtroom to ensure the defendants receive a fair trial, was so disconnected, answering his phone, walking away while the attorneys were delivering their closing arguments, a blatant disrespect to the courtroom and to the defendant. This court observation was an eye-opener, that what we may believe is justice could very well be injustice. The Constitution guarantees the right to a fair trial by an impartial jury and the right to due process. But can we say that justice was delivered here on this day? We would hope so, but can argue no. What may seem like a fair justice system is in fact an unjust system. The way this case was handled, the Fifth and Sixth Amendment could be in question.